Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Tuesday Night TerrorVision. I am your host. You used to call me Etep. Now you can just call me Pete Daddy Dollar, the father of currencies, Shoguns, baddest samurai. It's good to be here, folks. I'm joined this evening by a very special guest, director Nikk Bergman of Wendigoh Pictures, a film company from my stomping grounds here in the beautiful part of northern Michigan. Nikk, welcome to the program, brother.
Welcome. Thank you for having me here. I'm excited to be on.
Glad to have you, man. Glad to have you. We have a lot to talk about, but I have to acknowledge Glinzer rejoined as a channel member on the Harvey Wakuian producer tier. So thank you, Glinzer. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for signing back up. What up, Gap? Good to see you, sir. Good to see you, one of my mods. Yeah, thank you, Glinzer. Appreciate you, bro. Now, Nikk, I had Drew on a couple weeks ago, and I got to talk to him, Drew Robinson, and great guy. He ran camera for me when we did the midget wrestling show over at Dragon's Den.
That's what he was telling me.
Yep. And I said, man, you gotta come on the show and let's talk. And then he said, you should have Nikk on. So I'm like, all right, so I shot you a DM, and I'm like, and here we are. So why don't you go ahead and just tell us a little bit first about yourself and Wendigoh.
So obviously my name's Nikk Bergman. I founded Wendigoh Pictures. I believe it was 2017. We sort of officially took over, came up with Wendigoh Pictures and sort of rebranded as that. But I've been making films since I was 11 years old. So about 15 years now. Okay. I'm all, self-taught. No, I haven't done film school, anything like that. Everything I learned from trial and error, a lot of error. But yeah, we like to, we're very proud that we're all sort of self-financed. Obviously we do, crowdfunding, stuff like that, but we keep everything, in-house. It's just us, our crew. We keep everything really small and as independent as you can possibly be.
Doesn't that seem like it's a gift, like being independent? Because like you're an independent filmmaker, I work independent wrestling, and the two there's a lot of parallels because you run into, it's great to be independent because you call your own shots. You can
Absolutely,
you dictate how things go down to, how something is placed in a shot or a line of dialogue in your script. But then it's like you said, then you're independently financed, and you're like, unless you're independently wealthy, that is a pain in the arse. And I wasn't born with a gold mine underneath me or a particularly thick head of hair. So, you've got, I don't know if you have a gold mine, but you got a nice head of hair. So kudos to you, sir. You've won. But no, it's the crowdfunding thing. And I think that makes people feel more part of the project.
When they're absolutely
buying in like that. And that's, as somebody who backs a lot of independent comics, and I know a lot of the creators, that it just gives you a good feeling because everybody has dreams. And if a small contribution to somebody else's can make that come true, then that's a really cool thing to see. It's kind of like, just paying it forward, kind of.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And obviously a lot of passion goes into your films. You said you've been doing this since you were 11. And
yeah.
I think I told you I have my childhood VHS camcorder right here.
I love it. I love it.
I recently, I lost my mom, and my dad's giving stuff away, and he's like, hey, he goes, do you want the camcorder? And I'm like, yes, I do.
Man, that looks almost exactly like the one we shot some scenes on our upcoming film Bad Things, almost exactly like that.
It still functions. I'm replacing both battery packs, and the microphone foam, the cover needs to be replaced.
Yep, that's same with ours. The microphone foam's gone, and it wouldn't run off battery. We had to plug it in and just kind of fake it, like it was on battery the whole time.
I have the source right here, the plug. But yeah, this is what I plan on. Like I said, I'm going to make sure everything's in good order with it, and that is going to be what I use for a few things I'm working on eventually. And you said you shot Bad Things on one like
good
that.
Portion, I would say. God, even just spitball, I would say about 20 minutes. The movie's about sitting at about 2 hours, right now, give or take. Once we do the final cutting everything down for pacing and stuff, but I would say about 20 minutes of the film is actually shot on an old VHS camera. There's a good portion of our like storytelling is told through like some old home movies. And we kicked around kind of the idea of, well, we could just film with the same camera we're filming everything else with, throw it in editing. It's something I've done before, to fake the VHS effect, but when it's a pain and it doesn't always, it doesn't really look as authentic as you want. And I thought it'd be a fun challenge. Why don't we see if we can just film part of it on an old VHS camera, really give it that feel, and then go through the sort of pain in the ass process of trying to pull it over to a computer and then get it back onto the TV that we're playing through the movie. But it ended up it was super, super fun. It was some of the most fun I had filming stuff was that, because you really gives you that, even we're already independent, but it gives you that more independent film as you're running around with this huge VHS camera, running out of tape, having to switch them over. And then when you get into editing and just looking at it, it's such a cool feeling to look at that and go, wow, this really feels old school.
My mom had VHS editing equipment. I actually did the audio mixing, which is weird because I had trouble learning how to use Filmora when I started editing my YouTube videos. Like I said, it's about 6 months after I got on YouTube, I'm like, I should probably start editing these, because it was like 1917. If I can't do it in one take, we're starting over. So I had done VHS editing, and I did I think it was like my varsity senior, I edited the music onto our football highlight reel. And so I learned how to do the VHS video and audio editing in the early to mid 90s. My mom had soundboards and the dual headed VCRs set up in her bedroom. She had an office, and it was very neat. And learning how to use that on a VHS, it's I wish I remembered how to do that. And my God, when she sold her equipment, I didn't know about it. I had moved out, and she sold it. And I'm like, oh, no, why? It was, oh my God. My dad was like, yeah, I needed room. I'm like, he's moving muscle car engines into their bedroom. I'm like, but yeah, so the editing for that is it is a process. I've never transferred anything to a computer off VHS, which I'm sure it's going to present a whole other set of issues.
It was really a pain. It's about 3 different cords running through to get your your software on there. Then you're playing back all the footage, recording it through the software. Then we'll put it in all our editing. Edit it, put the timestamp down, trim it up, clean it up, and then export it again. And then you're playing it from your computer that's got about 5 more cords hooked up to the old CRT TV, playing back all the footage through while you're filming that. Then you get to go in and edit what you filmed there. But it really just has some of my favorite scenes in the movie are those. It does a really good job storytelling. It makes it feel so authentic. And it really, it did feel authentic. There's one scene, it doesn't spoil anything, but we needed to somebody frantically filming around the pitch black house. And this house is a cabin in the middle of nowhere, deep in the woods. And I'm there by myself at night. We got to have all the lights off, and I'm just filming around with the spotlight on the camera, just looking at all the different corners of the house, trying to act like I'm, somebody who's freaked out. And I'm like, oh, this sucks. I'm in the middle of nowhere. But
you out there by yourself?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was out there by myself. We were, cleaning up, packing up stuff at the cabin, getting some of the last shots that we needed. Because VHS stuff, we did all that last, which is kind of a weird way to do it, but it's the way things worked out. So I went middle of the night once just to do some pickup stuff, and was like, you know what? I might as well do this scene while I'm out here. And it probably looks, it looks like somebody freaked out filming around a cabin, and that's because it was somebody freaked out filming around a cabin.
It's a lot different in the daytime than it is at night.
Oh, it really is. Yeah.
Nowhere. And it's and that's one thing I love about horror, and especially slasher and slasher type horror, the summer camp type stuff, anything involving the wilderness, is that isolation, the feeling of abandonment, you know, it just, and that really plays into the emotion of a lot of like what I get from, like, you know, horror that's puts you in that situation.
And that's such a big part of our upcoming film Bad Thing. It is very about isolation and that feeling of loneliness. I mean, we have, you know, a big cast in this movie, bigger than I've ever worked with before, but such a good portion of it is just our main character alone in this cabin trying to work through things, you know, work through different, you know, childhood traumas and stuff that are coming back, and also trying to convince herself that she's not going crazy while things are sort of spiraling out of control. So it really does give you that middle of the wilderness, just kind of that isolation, and not in a peaceful, comforting way.
I was gonna say, I watched the trailer and I was like, okay, it was really, it was great. I really enjoyed
Thank you. I appreciate
did.
that.
No, I did. I was like, oh, because I'm, like I said, those kind of movies, I'm like, all right, so it caught my interest. I'm like, right from the get, and I like the cinematography used in it, the way it's shot looks good. I'm like, yeah. I, like I said, I enjoyed the trailer. I'm like, okay, do you want to show it? We could show the trailer if you want.
Yeah, why not? Might as well.
Absolutely. Let's pull up right here. Drop the background audio out. Yeah, I figured, I was like, yeah, we should show this.
Might as well. Give us a little bit. I can sort of go into some detail and talk about a couple things about it that I haven't got to yet.
Yes, sir. All right, we will roll this.
So, yesterday was when you were going to be moving into your old house, right?
Down the track came a hobo hiking, and he said, boys, I'm not turning. I'm headed for a land that's far away, beside the crystal fountains. So come with me, we'll go and see the big rock candy mountain.
So is like Marshy crazy or something?
Shut up!
You are supposed to be my friend, and all you are doing is hurting me. You are hurting yourself, Mercy. Quit blaming everyone else for your problems.
In the big rock candy mountains, there's a land that's fair and bright.
In Jesus' name, amen.
Very well done, sir.
Thank
Very
you.
well
It's
done.
so weird seeing it like that because that trailer we put together not super long after we finished filming. It looks so different now. That was before we hadn't done any of the like color grading yet, or like even any of like the final tweaks. I don't even think we'd finished like mixing the dialogue audio yet. It's crazy seeing it, look like that. I remember at the time being like, this is looking really great, but now that we have everything like polished up and how it's gonna actually look, it's like, oh, wow. It'll be a new trailer here soon in the next like couple months. We're wrapping up audio, getting all the music done, and then just finalizing all the effects, making sure the pacing on everything's good, and then we'll be wrapped up. So in about a month or so, we should have our premiere date, and then we'll have another trailer out, once we get that set. But we're moving along with it. We're really, really close. It's been an insane amount of work, but we're finally like getting close to the finish line.
Excellent. And the Big Rock Candy Mountain song, and that is so eerie. It's so crazy how you see like you'll see these songs like that used in horror, and it's like such an innocent song.
Yeah.
And you put it in that atmosphere and you mix that together, and all of a sudden it has this entirely new, and then that you can never forget that. Like it's
I've
always
never
there.
been able to like anytime I'll we're in through editing and stuff with the song. That song never comes up and I don't think of it completely different now.
What's up, Jacob? Good to see you, my brother. Said some dope Evil Dead vibes in that last shot.
Well, good. That's what we were going for. There's a few shots got now, especially the one shot of her in the doorway. Now that we have it all finished and all the coloring on it, it definitely that was sort of a last minute shot. My assistant director Roz suggested when we were filming. I was like, yeah, why don't we try something like that? And it ended up being like one of my favorite shots from the movie. Now that we got all covered, there's definitely some Evil Dead vibes going on there.
But it's funny too, because the when she goes into like the trailer, the cabin where she's at there, God, the interior of that place reminds me of like this older couple my dad was friends with when we were kids. And I just, because they weren't like miles apart from anybody, they had like neighbors kind of close, but it was still like all woods, like where they lived. It was out in Merritt by where I grew up.
Oh, okay.
And it's just like the opening shot when you walk inside, I'm like, oh my God, does that take me back? Like it's crazy. Just like the wallpaper and like the way the kitchen looks. I'm just like, that
place was it was a mess trying to get that ready. So I initially wrote it was supposed to be like a double wide trailer, and I wrote it with no idea how we're even going to get this location film, because we kind of got to tear it up. Like the trailer, I mean, I can't even show anything really from the last half of the movie in the trailer, but things don't look great in the cabin at the end of it. But I just made a post on Facebook. Does anybody have any kind of like property, something that's it doesn't have to look pretty. It's supposed to look like nobody's been there in a decade or so, that we could use. And a really good guy named Seth Finley reached out, and he's like, hey, I have just brought a house, and on the property there's this like old cabin there. It might work. Do you want to come check it out? And this is like middle of winter. I was like just finished up the script, I guess end of winter. So still snow around. I'm like, yeah, why don't we go look at it and see? And from the outside, we didn't have to do anything. Like it looked exactly what we wanted. But when we got inside, whoever owned it previously decided that they were going to like gut the inside, but they had like only about halfway gutted it. So there was portions that had no flooring, just giant holes. None of like the walls that are in there, those weren't up. It was big, empty space. There was like a beam up where the bathroom was, and you could tell where there was kind of a bedroom.
Yeah.
But it was just a big empty spot, holes in the walls. Half of it didn't even have electricity. And I know, I think there's probably pictures somewhere on our Facebook page or on our website. We have a little bad things happen here section that has some set picture that has like the state that this place was in. And I, looking at it, I was like, oh, this is rough, but now we can make this work. We'll figure it out. And it was the week before we started filming. I was like, yeah, I got 3-day weekend. Yeah, go ahead. I'm gonna, get this place fixed up. It won't be a problem. It was a nightmare trying to build rooms that aren't there and using like the wood paneling. We're using, what was there and like a few boards of OSB, trying to put it together. It was just 3-4 days of just hell trying to make it look the way it did. And there's so many like little things we had to put stuff in front of to hide and like places on the floor. It's like, okay, don't step there because you're probably going to fall through. But it was an insane amount of work. But I was super happy with it. And we got it, as close to what we were going for as I could. But wow, that was a process.
I was going to add, that was one of my next questions I was going to ask was, did you fab the inside of that?
Yeah.
Or was it, or before you said that you found, you found like that. I was like, so how much work did you have to do to fab that up to get it ready for shooting,
Yeah, it was, I definitely underestimated it. Like I said, it was less than a week before we started filming. We like put the carpet and flooring down and moved in the furniture the day before we started shooting. I really was like, oh, it's not going to be bad. There's like, they got the pieces from when they got it all here. All we got to do is put it back together. We just got to make a makeshift room. We're good to go. And the first day I was there by myself, like, oh shit, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. And then the next 3 days, had my mom and then my assistant director, Roz, came to help kind of finish this. And it's sort of the things you don't see because it looks, it looks really good. It looks at it looks functional, there. But man, there was just areas of the house we can't film because there's just not a wall there or the floor is missing there. But yeah, I'm really happy with it. But wow, was that a process? That's definitely, I think, one of the biggest challenges of this is trying to build a set with no materials, no money in a gutted little cabin.
Yeah, I was gonna say another one of the pratfalls, but again, your passion projects, things like that. It's like you said, you took and it's like, okay, this is what we got. This is what we're gonna do.
Yeah, absolutely. It was that is one of the, things, you have a couple mental breakdowns along the way. You go, man, this isn't going to work. I can't do this movie. But it is one of the, I think, big things about independent film is you have to learn to make it work. It is never going to be exactly how you want it to be. It's never going to be how you wrote it. It's never going to be easy because you don't have money. You are limited on people, time, resources, and you kind of have to learn how to pull stuff out of your ass. And that's, I mean, with this movie, it's seriously, we got really lucky with a lot of things. And there was a lot of stuff that we had to put a lot of hard work in. I mean, between the cabin, and then building a funeral home set in my garage and out of like closet doors and stuff. Like it was definitely a lot of, duct tape and cardboard. It felt like putting the movie together, but I think that's one of the beautiful things about independent film is what a group of people can do just through passion alone, because you don't have money, you don't have the equipment, you don't have a lot of people. But I mean, I don't know, there isn't any dream that's too big or too out there. If you want it bad enough, you can find a way to make it work.
And I was going to say that's like the mantra of people that are in the positions, like the independent, be it wrestling, film, comics, any animation, anything. It's like,
absolutely,
if you really, and you've seen, countless stories. It's like, yes, the classic rags to riches tale, and all it takes is just that one thing. Just that one break, the right set of eyes on something that you've done or created. And then it begins that snowball rolling downhill towards, something greater, which
even with this one, we really did have that effect. I mean, it's not like we got noticed by a big producer or anything like that, but just from what we had done with our first film, Flesh, and kind of getting it out there in the community, it was a lot easier this time. One, to just get people involved. We had a lot of people reach out that, hey, I didn't know we had something like that. I want to be in a movie. I want to work on that. And then as far as like when we needed locations, when we needed to shoot a concert scene, or we needed this or we needed that, you bring up, we're doing it for a movie. Oh, I know you guys, you made that movie. Yeah, absolutely. And it really did open a lot of doors and a lot of opportunities for us that we wouldn't have had without that first film. Because I mean, yeah, there were a few people in town. Oh yeah, you're like the movie guy or whatever, but we really had something to show for it. And it was something, especially in a community like this, there isn't the opportunity to, I want to be in movies. And it's, yeah, you have to make it happen yourself. And it definitely just, through the cast and opportunities we had alone, it already kind of started that snowball of, we were able to do so much more, even with people who were, generous enough to like donate to our film, whether it be through crowdfunding or fundraisers, or just, hey, you're making a movie, can we take you out to dinner? Like, here's some money, we really appreciate what you're doing. And it's crazy to think of, like, that there are people that believe in us, especially, I mean, this movie, just from what we could tell people about the movie, they were like, oh, that sounds great. Yeah, I want to help out. And it's, every little bit helps. And there was a lot of that. It's definitely, with movies, it takes a village. And we actually had that this time. We had a small crew, but man, the amount of people we had both in front of the camera and behind the scenes on this is bigger than I could have imagined, bigger than anything I've ever worked with. And a lot of it is because of the right people seeing it, even if it is just enough people in the community seeing it, wanting to be a part of it,
Well, that's fantastic though. I mean, like you said, being up north, northern Michigan, it's not exactly a booming metropolis of, cinema,
not quite.
type, or entertainment industry, it's really not.
Yeah.
So to have just normal folk that are like, this is somebody in the community is trying to do something. So yeah, well, that is, and that speaks volumes in today's world. It really does. Where you're
absolutely,
like,
yeah.
And I always make this correlation. Like I said, I grew up here, and I go to, I used to go to Tennessee in the summers to work with my dad, and I'm the kind of person to where it's like, if I walk by somebody on the sidewalk and there's eye contact, I don't have to talk to you. I'll just nod,
Yeah.
acknowledging my fellow human being. And I find up here, I do that, and people look at me like I'm crazy half the time. And, you'll get the, okay, maybe it's just me. I don't know. I think it's just me. They're like, that's Lex Luthor. Let's get away from him. Like, he's like a generic comic book villain. Like, no. But like when I was down south, it was like, everybody was so friendly, and, it just, so to hear that, yeah, the community is that shit just makes my day. It does. It makes my cold heart warm.
It really, I mean, as big as we needed a car to smash up, and one of the local towing companies was like, oh yeah, we heard of you guys. Sure. We'll drop off the car, do whatever you want to it, and let us know when you're ready for us to pick it up. And we had an entire car that we could just completely destroy. And that was the scene I wrote it. I don't know. Some people will tell you with independent film, make sure you're writing within your means. If you don't write something you can't pull off. And I mean, to a degree, yeah, especially starting off, I mean, don't, stifle your vision or anything, but, keep it within your means. But I've kind of gotten to a point now where I've been able to pull off things I didn't think I could, and always find a way to make it work. So with this, I was like, all right, we need to smash up a car. I'm like, I have no idea how we're going to do that, but we're going to write it and figure it out. And then it just sort of happened like that. And it just big things like that. And then just little things to like, hey, here's $10. We appreciate, what you're doing for the community. I think it's like a cool thing, keep it up. And it really, it does. It is just nice seeing that there are so many people who care about it. There's people like, I don't even watch horror movies, but this is so cool that you're doing that. And, it really is just nice to have. That is one good thing. I mean, making films in a small town, it definitely has its difficulties and shortcomings to it, but there's also that sort of closeness of the community of, if you're the person in town making movies, that does kind of, word gets around, and you do have a lot of people who are, oh, I heard of that, I want to be a part of that, I want my name in the credits. And it is just, it is one of the good things about being in such a small area and doing this.
And it's good that you can drum up that support. And like I said, that all helps just get the word out farther, because like you said, you have people that they're like, I don't like horror movies, but you're from the area, you're doing something local, so I'll help you out. And it's like, they're going to tell somebody about it, or 2 or 3 people about it.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a cool thing. I mean, Houghton Lake, we had what was it? That Frozen Stupid movie that was about Tip of
Oh,
Town with Ernest Borgnine was the big.
yeah.
Yeah. I've never even seen it. I've never
I don't think I
seen
have either, actually.
I haven't. And like I was living here when they were filming it, and I just was like, I mean, I love where I live. I love Tip of Town. It's a huge thing here, but I'm just like, I've never been much of an ice fisherman myself. I prefer living. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
like,
honestly, though.
when I go out on the lake, it's 80 some degrees. I'm on my pontoon and I have a Modelo with me. That's how I prefer to go out on the lake, and then I anchor my boat and I sit there in the sandbar and I drink beer for the afternoon. That's if it's under 80 degrees, 70s are okay, but I'm not going out on the frozen. That just doesn't appeal.
That's not for me either. There's no way you're getting me out there doing that.
I haven't been on like ice like that. Like I used to play pond hockey and stuff at my house because we
Yeah.
had and you were talking about shooting locations. I was gonna say, if you ever need, around 40 acres with like a river running around the property, a swamp, a pond, I'm sure I can work something out because my old man has 40 acres out where, he still lives in the house I grew up in. It's just him now. And I was thinking about that. I'm like, because I was telling you about the Friday the 13th thing.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Man,
because
that'd be perfect for that. Yeah.
they have, and my dad lives in this huge, like, it's this old 5,000 square foot farmhouse. Like, it's massive.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it's like, it would be perfect to like film in. And then, my in-laws have a cabin on the ensemble with like 13 acres. And I'm like, that would be great for some more wooded shots if I wanted to, do some other stuff up there.
Yeah.
But I was going to tell you, I'm like, if you ever need a spot, just let me know and we can work.
Oh, always. Yeah, now I
Definitely
got
work something out with
my
that.
mind going. I always like to incorporate. I mean, even with this one, it was a lot of indoor as
Yeah.
opposed to things we've done before. I always like to incorporate, nature and the
Yep.
beauty of Michigan, especially swampy rivers. Yeah, you got my mind going now.
Yeah.
I got some ideas.
Because I'm like, I was joking around with my dad. I'm like, because everything that I did in this leans heavily on like the entire mythos of Friday the 13th based on specific locations, Higgins Haven, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Dad, I need to fab a barn up in one of the hay fields. Do you think we can do that? He goes, not with the price of lumber now. He goes, you're nuts. I'm like, well, what if we went around to all these people with these? Now, this is the thing right here, barnwood. You go to these with the barns that are falling down or collapse. It's like, hey, have some of that wood. And then, all of a sudden you're hauling out truckloads of wood and you can fab yourself up something. Maybe not to scale, but at least if you shoot it and frame it right.
Yeah. You would seriously be amazed what you can accomplish by just putting yourself out there, reaching out of like, hey, I need that. I mean, something as simple as we needed a casket for our funeral scene. We're like, okay, well, we can't afford to buy one of those. Don't really know anybody who's dying anytime soon. And just simple through my mom reaching out to somebody that she used to babysit 20 years ago, happens to own a funeral home. They had a display casket where the hinge broke. They can't do anything with it. If you want to drive up, we drove up to Grand Rapids to go pick it up, and we had a whole casket just sitting in my garage now because we, reached out. You would be amazed at the sort of things people have and what you can accomplish by just putting yourself out there as, hey, we need this. Can anybody help? And especially in small towns, like I said, you do get people who just really do want to help.
Yep. And it's a great thing. And it's great for independent filmmakers to be
Absolutely.
able to get that kind of love from the community, man.
Yeah. I mean, without it, we definitely wouldn't be able to do even half of what we've been able to accomplish so far.
So talk about the movie a little more, man. You don't have to tell us plot details or anything. If you want to give us an overview and talk about the cast a little bit, some of the characters.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wrote it. Oh God, I'm trying to even remember now because it's been such a long process. 2022. Yeah, 2022. I hit kind of just a rough patch in life. It seemed like everything that kind of could go wrong did. I lost a job I had been at for over 5 years at that point. A very good friend of mine had moved away. And and just some other things going on, I sort of hit my rock bottom and was just kind of like, I don't really know what to do to keep myself afloat right now. I've always, had my struggles with mental health and stuff like that, but never quite to that point. And I was just really in a rut, and I was trying to figure out a way to get myself out of it, and could only think, something that's always got me through is movies. It's always, even on the worst days, kept me going. So I thought, well, I feel awful. Let me just write it. And I think in about 2 weeks had the first draft of the script done. And it really, I've had writer's block before. I didn't have a moment with this. I was stumped. There was just so much coming out of, myself into this script. There's a lot of personal experiences, sort of reworked to fit the narrative, but a lot of my own life went into this, and it's a very just sort of intense story. It follows our main character, Mercy. She's a woman in her 20s, and after something really terrible happens, she is forced to move back into her childhood home, which is where a majority of the film takes place. And as she is already trying to deal with the grief from the accident at the beginning of the film, she starts reliving some moments from her childhood that she sort of pushed away. And the longer she's in this, her childhood home, these memories are starting to dig themselves up through, like I talked about before, a lot of home videos that she finds. We get some memories of her father and her mother and her as a child. And as the movie goes, we sort of follow her on a downward spiral as these memories and traumas are coming back to her while she's trying to deal with what's going on in her own life and feeling like she is losing her mind and everybody around her. And it's definitely it's a very heavy story. And I don't know if I guess I could even call it's a very just cautionary tale. It's very mental health focused on just grief and trauma and remembering to take care of yourself before you hit that spot where it is too late to come back from. And like I said, we follow her as she spirals downwards. So does the movie. The last half hour, 20 minutes specifically are just complete chaos. It is my favorite part of the film because it is so intense. There's so much going on, and all of these things are all starting to catch up at once to just a very, I think, powerful, intense ending that is going to, I think, stick with people. I think the film in whole, it's a very, very heavy film. There's a lot of different influences going into it. It's a very psychological horror movie. It's got, little bits of everything, sprinkled in there, but it's very psychological and mental health focused. But a good, majority of the movie follows our main character, Mercy, as she goes through this and the people around her, her boyfriend, her best friend, her therapist, and then her parents, and some flashbacks and stuff like that. I wish there was, more I could say, but I don't want to give too much away, especially because the last half of the movie, there is a lot going on. But yeah, that's about what I can say for the moment. But
yeah, don't spoil anything. We don't want
definitely
not.
We
don't want you to spoil anything, man. We don't want you to spoil anything. So how did you go about as far as casting goes? Are these actors that you normally work with, or did you reach out and just kind of cast a net and see, how did you go about casting?
So our main actress, I kind of, just because it is such a heavy role that requires so much, I did have, in mind and spoke to her while I was writing our actress, Amanda. She's Amanda Howell now because she got married, but who was our main actress in our first film, Flesh. I've known her since we were little kids. She's a fantastic actor, and I knew she'd be able to do it. So once she was like all on board for it, but she was the only one I went into it knowing, okay, this is who is going to play this character. I didn't really have any idea for anybody else. And it was actually the first time we were able to do like a big audition. Our local playhouse let us use their theater for a lot of things, but for audition process. So we actually were able to do a real audition, have people read from the scripts and pick and choose. We didn't have to be like, okay, well, this person can do it, so we have to use them. It was, okay, well, this person is perfect for this role. And we actually we had so many people audition, we had to create a couple extra roles, which ended up adding a lot to the film. But no, it was and other than Amanda, it was entirely a new cast. Some of the crew was the same, but as far as casted, mostly was people I'd never worked with before, some I'd never even met before.
Okay. So it was that's cool though that you knew your main actress. You had that's kind of like your anchor point right there. Your
Yeah.
lead is your anchor, and then you just kind of build outward around her role.
Yeah.
Is that kind of how, like, obviously it's kind of probably how your writing process works, or like, do you look at the story, like when you're approaching a new story, do you look at it like from an overall perspective, or do you try to start from like character based, or I mean, do you have, like, say you just come up with a character, it's like you want to put, take them on a journey, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it definitely it has changed as I went on. I know, especially when I first started getting into it, like in middle school and high school, I would start with like, oh, here's a really cool effect I want to try out. How do we write a short around this? And then as it has went on and I've sort of experimented more and found what I really like about the storytelling aspect of it, I really do I'll have like a scene. I know for this one I had like a couple different scenes. I was like, well, maybe I'll do a project that has something like this or that, and they all sort of came together in this. But definitely I think the main thing I focused on was a character I liked, and like you said, a journey I wanted to take them on. And that was the biggest thing from this. I was like, okay, I know the character I want, I know the things that I would like to happen and experience, and kind of build around that. And it's something definitely with our next project we're working on. Really the only thing I have now is the types of characters that I want to tell this story about and center it around.
So what's the next story you're working on, if you can talk about it at all?
There's not a whole lot I can say because I am pacing myself on getting too involved in it. Just because it's an issue I had, in middle school and high school when I was starting, I'd get halfway through a project and then get really excited about the next thing, focus on that and not finish that. And I don't want it to, kill my momentum on bad things. But now that we are getting close to the finish line and wrapping things up, I have been able to put more time and thought. Trying to think if there's, like I said, I mainly, I have a few sort of story ideas and some characters, but right now it's looking like I'd like to be a story about a young woman and her little sister, and sort of what they're going through in the story and sort of their strained relationship as they get closer. Maybe have some aspects of, I'm toying around with some ideas of maybe like a cult sort of working behind the scenes on things. Definitely something I'd like to do a little, do some more psychological work with, but I haven't done too many. I have like a few scene ideas and just kind of like an overall vibe I'm going for with it, and some characters I kind of want to explore, but there isn't a whole lot I can tell because there isn't a whole lot to it yet. I just sort of have blanket idea of what I think I'd like to do next, but I want to make sure before I put a whole lot of effort into that, I get this one wrapped up. And It also gives me motivation to power through this, last stretch and put the time of getting anything wrapped up so I can start with what's next.
Well, it sounds like a cool concept.
Thank you.
It sounds like a cool concept. I'm a huge horror fan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't like slasher that's my favorite genre, but you said you're talking about like leaning on the psychological aspect of it, and I find myself gravitating towards some of those now because a slasher movie is comfort food, but sometimes you want a nice filet mignon, and you're like, okay, I want some extra with this, and that's, to me, that's where like psychological, not necessarily elevated, because that's a whole different that's a whole different thing that I've seen and you've probably seen which In a Violent Nature.
Oh yeah.
What were your thoughts like on that? Because I thought it was a neat concept. I thought there were some things, but like I said, armchair quarterback, I'm just looking at it from a horror fan's perspective, and I'm like, I like the concept. Number one, me personally, I would not have unmasked the killer at the end, he took his gimmick. He had that old,
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, don't do that. That was like, don't. It left.
No, I definitely get that. I like, because it is such a interesting idea.
Mhm.
It's such an independent project that got this sort of momentum and word around it. I remember I had to drive, over 2 hours to Flint was our nearest theater that was even showing it.
Mhm.
And I did really like it. Obviously there were things, I would have done different, but overall it was such a neat concept to do it from the killer's, perspective. And
Yeah.
some of the kills were just nasty. The yoga kill specifically, that was one that stuck with me. It's one I really
It was a
do
chef's kiss.
appreciate, the ambition that went into that, because you can tell that's a small group of people. And like,
Yeah.
I've been there. I've done slashers before, and I don't want to say like a similar, thing, but I did a music video that was sort of more, you got more of the slashers side of view, but it reminded me a lot of when I was filming that and the fun I had at doing that. And like, the fun slashers, they're fun. They're really fun, and they're like, you can really just have a good time with them. It's not, as mentally strenuous of a, task, because you're not trying to like dig deep into yourself and make something that's super personal. You're making something that, a popcorn movie, you can have fun filming it, people have fun watching it. And that's what I love about, slashers, and sort of what I grew up on. And they are a blast to make. They're really just, because you can get out there, I know, like the one I was talking about in the music video we did, we really didn't have an idea of like, we want our killer to look like this, and this is kind of what we want him to do. And we got out in the middle of the woods for a couple days, and we're just doing whatever we thought was cool.
Yeah.
It was really, really a blast doing that.
And that's, like you said, man, that way it's kind of like that popcorn thing where you just kind of turn your brain off and sit there and you get to enjoy it. And then, like with your psychological stuff, like you're doing with, bad things, you have this deep dive, and you're getting into, like you said, you're taking some of the things, your experiences, and you're juxtaposing them into and writing them into where they fit and things like that. And it's like that is so, because it puts so much of a personal touch on it, and the audience will, inevitably, they always pick up on that. They're like, when they start to get familiar with work, they're like, okay, which is neat. It's always neat because it's like your fingerprints are on that.
Yeah, I always have my signature little things that, without even thinking about it, I end up doing in every, thing I've worked on, or a little influence of something that's in everything I work on, without, even noticing I'm doing it.
Filmmaking idiosyncrasies, as it were.
Yes.
But, so do you have a favorite horror franchise or movie?
Oh, all right. I'll give you two answers. A favorite horror movie. I got to go with John Carpenter's The Thing. It's just there's so much to love about that. I could go on and on about my love for that movie. But as far as franchise, I'm gonna have to give it to Nightmare on Elm Street. That was Freddy's been my guy since I was a little kid. I remember being, I think, like 5-6 years old, running around in my little Freddy costume. It was even too big for me, running around in the backyard. Freddy has always been my favorite, and it's a franchise that it's just so creative with, what he can do as a character. I mean, obviously I love Jason, I love, Leatherface, all the classic slashers, but with Freddy, there's so much opportunity to do something so different every time. And it's also that fear of like, you can run, but you can't, you can only stay awake for so long. It's just, there's so many things with him that always stick with me in that franchise in general. Even the movies that like I can look at it and go, oh, that kind of sucks. I still love it though. It's still a 5-star movie for me, even though I can watch it and go objectively, this is not very good, but I love it.
Oh, and the later Nightmare on Elm Streets, where even like the first one I saw was Dream Warriors, and
that's my favorite.
That absolutely, to this day, I still put it goes 3, 1, and then the rest of them for me. I'm like, I can watch them in any order after that. I'm sorry. Wes Craven's New Nightmare I put that outside of the regular mainline franchise.
Yeah, I always separate that one kind of from it too.
So, and I saw that in the theater when I was a teenager.
Wow.
My mom would take me to see. My mom introduced me to horror, and she was horror and wrestling, which is an odd thing because usually you would think it's your dad would introduce you to wrestling. My mom was a huge wrestling fan. My dad liked it as a kid, and then was like, he's like, that's fake garbage, you know. And now he comes to watch me wrestle at 45, and he's making fun of me for my earring getting ripped out. So he's like,
yeah, how fake is that?
Yeah, that's what I said. I'm like, yeah. I was like, that's not fake, is it, Daddy? He goes, no, you should have taken those stupid things out. All right, boomer. But no, it's the Nightmare on Elm Street stuff. My mom showed me Dream Warriors when I was 7, and then it's like I remember at like 5 or 6 when Nightmare on Elm Street, the original one, hit HBO, and seeing the trailer on. For those of you kids who are younger than I am, I'm an old curmudgeon, and back in my days, just the HBO Cinemax Showtime, when they would show a movie, their freaking teaser trailers they showed in between their commercials when they would show, because there really wasn't a lot of other than movie commercials on HBO because it's a movie network. For those of you not familiar, and you only had streaming, but no, I kid. It was creepy because they show that. Shut up, Gap. They take. I am really old, fucker. They take that the scene with the bedroom, all the blood in the bed, getting sucked down the middle of the bed, and the glove in the bathtub, and it's just like, as a kid, that shit is just. It was so freaky,
Yeah, that was, I think, what always.
I just loved it.
There was a small costume shop in town, and the lady ran it. She was like a second grandma to me, but she had all these like costumes and different things in the back. And I was obsessed with like the Universal monsters and classic black and white horror. And I remember she had a Freddy Krueger costume there. And I was like with my mom. I was like, whoa, who is that? He looks sweet. Look at his like hand and what's up with his face. And my mom was like, all right, we're gonna sit down. I'm gonna tell you about Nightmare on Elm Street and how cool Freddy really is. And I was hooked ever since then. And the claw, there's so much iconic about him that I immediately fell in love with him before I'd even seen the movie. Just the idea of Freddy was so cool to me.
My son is 9.5, and he was Freddy for Halloween 2 years ago.
I love that.
If Trina was here, my usual co-host, I would let her take over, and I would run upstairs and get his costume because he has the sweater with the center torn out and the soles. And
I know exactly what costume you're talking about. That one is so cool. I wanted that. I had a catalog. It was called Things You Never Knew Existed. It was a magazine back in the day when I was a kid, and it had that sweater in it. I wanted it so bad. I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen.
We found it at the costume shop in Houghton Lake called Mystic Cove.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. Jared from Shogun used to work with Ron that owns it. And we've gone in there the last 4 or 5 Halloweens and looked for stuff. And I've bought props in there for the show. My stupid little skulls. I'm the only independent wrestler that has done a Hamlet in his promo. I think I did. I said, alas, poor Brody. I knew him, Jared. I did that in a promo, but no, I go in there and I just buy little things in there, like I was Negan, so I needed plastic barbed wire. So I'm like, I go in there and I'm like, Ron, do you have any plastic barbed wire? And he goes, I've got a Jesus wig with the crown of thorns. I'm like, I need a Jesus wig just because I can use a wig anytime. And lo and behold, I used the wig for one of my redneck characters I do. Jimmy Joe Bobby Earnhardt. Yeah, that's a real creative name, but he's fantastic. But no, it's like, so I bought this in, I wrapped it around my bat, and I'm like, there's my Negan shit, it was kind of, but I love those, and you don't see many of those, and this is just a little mom and pop type, magic costume store. Those they're disappearing, and all you have left is what Halloween was a Spirit Halloween.
Spirit Halloween. Yeah.
Which did you ever see the Spirit Halloween movie? We reviewed it.
I did not. I saw enough of it, and I was like, I really like Christopher Lloyd. I saw the trailer, and I'm like, you know what? I don't know if this one's for me.
You didn't.
I figured I wasn't missing much. Yeah.
No, you did. You literally saved yourself about 90 minutes of your life. I mean, no, we were talking about Nightmare on Elm Street, and every franchise spawns its knockoffs, and there's a ton of Nightmare on Elm Street knockoffs. One of my favorites was always Bad Dreams, which is not a great movie, but
yeah,
Richard Lynch that plays the main character. God damn, that man is just perfect in those off the wall roles. And I've watched like behind the scenes stuff, and they're like, yeah, Richard Lynch was always kind of out there anyway. Like he was a different cat. I'm like, that makes sense. That's why he played such a good psycho.
Yeah.
But I love hearing that stuff about because it's like they play like I said, have you seen Bad Dreams? That one came out like 88, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have vague memories of it. I watched like a really crappy like YouTube like DVD rip of it.
The one gal that was in that, her name is eluding me. Jennifer Rubin. She was in Nightmare on Elm Street 3: The Dream Warriors. Yeah. She was the this made me develop a like for kind of like the leather type goth mohawk. I'm just like, why? I'm like 7 years old. I'm like, why do I like her so much? I'm like, I liked her better than the blonde nurse that showed her tits. I'm like, I should like that, but I'm like, I don't know what it is. The mohawk, the switchblades, and the leather jacket. I don't know. Totally out of pocket for me, but I'm like, I'm gonna tell you. Damn you, Jennifer Rubin. No, that scene with Joey though, the nurse. That was such a freaky ass creative scene.
There was a documentary, God, it's like a 9-hour documentary that goes through like how they made all of the Nightmare on Elm Street street movies and go the behind the scene, and like the behind the scenes of like that one in particular is like insane how they even pulled that off. And like I said, it's like 9 hours, but I watched all in one sitting and it flew by. It is so fascinating, just all the little things behind the scenes and how many people working on those movies really just did not like each other.
And Robert Englund doing yayo off the blade of the glove with Dokken. Yeah. I'm like, dude, it doesn't get much more rock and roll than that.
It really doesn't.
I wanted, goddamn you, Gap. You know you have a leather fetish. Just because my wrestling gimmick, I may or may not wear all leather. I don't know. I don't have the daddy hat though. I'm not Randy Orton. All right, leave me alone. That's one of my buddies, Vinny, he photoshopped me into the Blue Oyster from Police Academy. I'm like, I love this. I'm gonna use this in a promo. This is awesome. I'm like, you can't shame me. I'm like, I have no shame. Look at me.
You're a wrestler. You can't do that with shame. You got to throw all that to the side.
Right. I'm like, at the end of the day, we're grown men who play fight in tights. I'm like, it's some of the boys that get mad at me for saying that, but I'm like, that's what we're doing.
You take yourself too seriously, end up turning into The Rock or something. Like you gotta understand what you're doing. Yep. It's all the best wrestlers are the ones that can have fun with it.
Yep. And that's anything you do, man. It's like you're talking about your filmmaking. It's like you've got to enjoy it, even if it's stressful and it drives you nuts. And at times you hate it. You take those moments of clarity where you remember why you do what you do.
Absolutely. Even like the worst days you have. I mean, there's been times we leave set, everybody's pissed, nothing worked right. I'm in tears by the end of it. Like, oh my God, this movie's never, oh my God, what the hell are we going to do? And just go the next day. We're going to have to reshoot everything. And then you sit down, you look at it, you're like, oh, okay, that's not that bad. But you have those moments that are just, you feel like you are on the threshold of hell working on a movie set. But it is still the most fun, rewarding experience. And I mean, the good days on set where for some reason everything just goes right. I mean, the people you work with, it really does. It is, I could not imagine my life without it. It is definitely what keeps me going on my worst days. And I mean, it got me out of a really, dark place I was in working on this, and the worst days of that, I wouldn't trade for anything.
No, because it's something that you love, and like you said, you know, and I've been there where you're like, this is it. You know, mentally, like, this is it. There's nowhere else to go. I'm literally looking at the rocks because I am at the bottom.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that, I mean, this, not just this movie, yes, this movie in particular, but there have been so many times where I had a rough time, you know, in middle school, high school, especially, and you know, movies were what, you know, kept me going. And it's always been, you know, sort of my driving thing of what you know, it's been my passion since I was very little. And yeah, it is one of those things. It's important to have stuff like that can get you through. Well, like the worst day on a set when nothing's going right. It's 80 degrees. You're in a cabin with fans you can't even use because you got recording audio and effects aren't working and the batteries are dying and everybody's tired and hungry. You haven't eaten all day and it's, you know, miserable. And then you're like, look back at it now and you're like, oh my God, that was one of the best days ever. I wish I could go back. That was so fun. Like it was a blast. And look at how great this footage turned. Like you don't realize how miserable everybody is behind the scenes and what, you know, goes into, you know, 1 5-second shot.
Yeah.
You know, an hour of setup and behind the scenes work just to get that there.
Yeah, it's a ton of work. And you think about the compilation it takes to make an entire film of all those just small moments and then all the behind the scenes setup. And you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, every step of it, even writing it, you're like, wow, there's a lot that goes into writing a movie. And then the prep work of getting our shooting schedules, you know, doing our concept art. I did concept art for all the, you know, all the wardrobe. I mean, this takes place over a week. So our main actress, we got all these different clothes, all these different scenes you're trying to organize. And you're like, wow, a lot goes into that. And then doing the effects, you're like, wow, filming, you're like, wow, there's a lot into that. And then you're finally like, all right, we're at the easy part now. And then you go into editing and I do, you know, the editing, the sound mixing, color grading, all that, the effects by myself, a lot of the music I've been doing as well with it. And you're like, wow, there's a lot that goes into that, especially when you do hit the editing part and you do kind of feel like a one-man show sometimes, you know, not that there isn't help with music and stuff, you know, along the way, but you do get so much where you have this big weight on your shoulder. Wow, there's a lot that goes into this, but it's so rewarding. And it's, especially when you can see the finished product. Like I was talking about earlier with that old trailer, how different things look now compared to that. When you see how it looks, you know, the effects are done, the coloring's perfect. You're like, wow, that is insane what we've got there.
Well, that's great, man. I love your enthusiasm for this. It comes through, man, when you talk about it. So that's
good. I'm glad, because it
does.
definitely is something, you know, it's a pain in the ass, and there's some days it is really overwhelming. It's like, oh, I'm ready for this to be done, but man, is it, especially this project in particular, I'm so happy and proud of what we were able to pull off. There is so much hard work from everybody, you know, involved in big and small ways. Everybody put their heart, soul, literal blood, sweat, and tears into this, and it's amazing. You know, I'm very, you know, hypercritical. Everybody's their own worst critic, and there's always little things you notice that nobody else is, but this is absolutely like the most proud I've been of something. We really managed to pull off something really special here, and I think it's going to be really impactful to a lot of people. I'm hoping so, at least.
Well, I like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing this one. I am, man. This like I said, the trailer had me hooked. We had a couple questions here. Let's see.
All right, perfect.
You want to see what the movie poster looked like? I'll share that right here because I'm over on the website.
Yeah, there's a whole if you go to wendigohpictures.com, we have a whole bad things happen here section. Yeah, right there, and it's got our poster, a bunch of behind the scenes footage. We're gonna have another poster, another variation coming out soon, but yeah, we have pictures, the whole, you know, behind the scenes process through audition to set photos. I'm pretty sure at some point in here you can see kind of what a mess of the cabin we were dealing with, but there's it's spoiler free behind the scenes photos. I mean, we have so many that we can't, you know, even show, but yeah, that it gives me have a synopsis, a little better one of the movie there, and but there's definitely, I would say it's worth checking out the website for that. We have, stuff of, some of our other works, but I mean, it goes through the whole special effects, process of
So
making
cool.
face
The-
casts in my garage and, all the work that really goes into this. So we had to do 5, face and head life casts for just some of our, main members. It's definitely there is so much that goes on. I mean, you can even see furniture from the cabin in the back.
Yeah.
There we go. That's some pictures of what we
Here
were
we
dealing
go.
with the cabin. Yeah, that's
Okay.
Yeah, that's what our flooring ended up. That's after we got some down. At some point there was a sink. Yeah, that's what we were dealing with. No real walls.
Holy
Trying to.
shit, bro.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, seeing that this is what we were dealing with and what we were able to pull off.
Yeah.
It was a really long 4 days of work trying to get this done with my very minimal carpentry skills and experience. But
Well, it looked great in the trailer, man. Like you said, the way you framed everything and you shot it. Looked
there's
great.
always certain areas of the house where you're like, wow, you can see kind of right there in that picture of me working on the floor, that whole wall next to the bathroom to the left there, that wall, we didn't have anything to put there. So we just never filmed that wall, which it was really convenient to film into the bathroom. But that whole wall, there was nothing there. So we couldn't film there. And there's, a few areas that we weren't able to film around because there was missing stuff there. But yeah, it gives kind of a visual of what goes into, making a movie. And I think this is some of the funeral home in my garage.
Okay.
With getting everybody ready for that. I think at some point you'll be able to see the set walls that we built out of closet doors and then having to go through and editing and like paint out all the, seams and stuff that Spackle didn't quite cover, and trying to cram 15 people in my garage to film that.
That's creative though, man. You did the damn thing.
Yeah, we were supposed to. We had a big, like one of those big, wedding, tents that we had rented, and then it ended up being windy. The company fell through. We didn't even get the right size tent. We didn't get any of the chairs or flooring. So this was, again, the day before we started filming, realized we weren't going to get that, and we had to build this whole set in the garage and figure out how to cram everything in there. It's a lot of improvising and figuring out, okay, well, that didn't work. What the hell are we going to do now? And we can't just give up.
No, that's not an option.
No,
it came together very well, man.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I think so too. You wouldn't, without looking at it, you wouldn't know what a mess it is outside of the frame.
Yeah. That, like you said, that's the movie magic right there.
It is. It's really all the things you don't see that make the movie function.
All right, we got another question from Gap.
All
what
right.
are some of your influences in the film genre?
Oh, all right. Well, obviously, John Carpenter, The Thing, that's a big, he's, my favorite director, big influence. Another one, David Cronenberg. I just love that gross, nasty body horror. Give me that. And I mean, one of the big ones that got me to fall in love with movies was the Universal monsters, Creature from the Black Lagoon, all that. When I was little, that was my biggest obsession. I mean, it still is one of mine now. And then, like I said, elevated to that, the slashers with Freddy and all of that. And then the one that actually got me started into making my own films was George Romero and all his, Of the Dead films, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead. When I was a kid, I used to watch the making of, that used to come on DVDs. They'd have the special features of the making of. I would watch that more than I'd watch the movies themselves. And I saw how George Romero and Tom Savini and his crew were pulling off these zombie effects. I'm like, oh, I could do that with some toilet paper, liquid latex. Perfect. And I'm like, well, I like doing makeup. Why don't we, and I have a camera. Why don't we, film some of it? And that was sort of where that went. I was like, I'm going to make zombie movies. And that got me into effects. It then got me into stuff like The Thing and, Cronenberg and, body horror and that kind of thing. And then it just kind of spiraled from there. And I mean, there's always, I'm always taking in new influences. I mean, there's a lot of films that influence me, and they come from kind of weird places. I mean, even the ones that inspired bad things. I mean, there's such a variety from things like Evil Dead to Hereditary to then like Enter the Void out of nowhere as an inspiration, and like the Silent Hill games are a big inspiration. There's a lot of, you know, I'm always trying to take in different things. You know, I have my horror that I like, but I don't know, there are always different influences. And, you know, I love the trashy exploitation stuff of the 70s, you know, just seeing what you can get away with. And then, you know, the big slasher effects boom of the 80s. And then even as things started to change in the 90s and 2000s, there's even some guilty pleasure, you know, movies in there. And just now the way things are going with, like you talked about earlier, some of the more elevated horror that feels like it's got something different to it. You know, there's always, you know, a million kind of different inspirations out there.
Absolutely. J-Man, what's up, brother? J-Man is he introduced me to the Giallo movies. I had never
that is a genre right there.
First one we watched was Tenebrae. I'm like, he started us out with filet mignon.
Yes.
Like,
Dario Argento, he is another big inspiration. Suspiria was one of the first. That was the first time.
I cannot wait to watch that one.
It is one of my favorite. It is the first time I can remember myself actually noticing like the lighting and color in a film. And that I always try to with films, even as, you know, gloomy and dark as bad things is, keep those big vibrant blues for nights and pinks for this, and really keep the vibrant colors, because I love that.
I started to really pay more attention to cinematography in the last couple of years, honestly. As I started doing like the behind the scenes like breakdowns of like the Halloween franchise. Because I love Friday the 13th is my favorite. Jason Voorhees is I fucking love Michael Myers, and I love the franchise. And Dean Cundy is probably one of my favorite cinematographers.
Yes.
And his wide shots, the way he filters everything. It's like I was watching him. It was, I can't remember what John Carpenter. Oh, it was after Prince of Darkness, we just watched, it was like, God damn it. The Apocalypse trilogy.
Escape from
no. It's The Thing, Prince of Darkness, and we just watched it. It's killing me now. I can't think of the name of it. Mouth of Madness.
I was gonna say, did he do Mouth of Madness?
Yeah, In the Mouth of Madness.
Yes.
And I was watching that, and I'm like, is this Dean Cundy? And I had to look. It wasn't. I can't remember. It was another Carpenter collaborator though, and I'm like, because I'm watching it, I'm like, this the way it was framed, I was like, it looked like Cundy at first. I'm like, but it wasn't. Gap had another question. He asked, how do you approach the pacing of a film?
I've never been asked that before. So it's all in. So the way I write my scripts are very descriptive, because I do a lot of, you know, isolated on one person. So there's dialogue. This one has more dialogue than I've done before, but so much of it is so well described in the script, kind of like beat by beat. And then you just sort of film it, you go with it. I really like to let my actors improvise, like, this is what the script says. Do what you feel is right, really take control of your character. And then a lot of it is, so much of pacing is in editing, because you can completely change a scene and the impact with how you edit it. And the biggest part of pacing is just watching the footage. You know, you go through it and you're like, okay, we're getting the rough cut. Yeah, that looks good. And then you go through and you're coloring and you watch it again and you're like, oh, that drags and it's, you know, too much. Or you look and you go, oh, that doesn't have the impact. That's too short. How do we lengthen that? And then you get to audio and you're like, okay, well, now that there's sound, it's a little different. And then you get to music and you're like, okay, well, that's a little different. And then when you do your final pass, which is what I'm going through now, it really is just watching it and trying to pretend you don't know what the movie's about. You don't know what's going into it. And I'll watch through, you know, a clip 10, 15, 20 times with like making, you know, a half-second tweak here and there to really make sure it flows. Because it was something I didn't do as much with our first film, Flesh, as I wish I would have. Because looking back, I'm like, oh, there's things that dragged, but it was a very rushed post-production. I didn't get to tweak it as much. So it's something I focused on a lot with this one, is making sure every scene I want to be impactful, and making sure it has that impact of, is this too long? Is it too short? So I always try to view it as, if I didn't know what was going on, would this scare me? Would this make me tense? If I didn't know what was going to happen, is this scene long enough to make me nervous, anxious? Or, okay, is this scene too short and we're not, is it too long and it's not getting that impact? We're hanging on something too much. A lot of, it's a lot of, you start pacing in the script, then as you're filming, you kind of do it there, and really you want to give yourself more than you need, because you can always trim it in editing. And then it's, how many times you watch a scene over until you finally get it, where you think is just right.
Yeah, you want to cut out the shoe leather, right?
You
don't want a lot of shoe leather in your movie. You don't want
there's certain scenes, especially if you have like I don't do a lot of jump scares, but if you have that like, whoa moment, you want that buildup of tension. Especially there's a lot of, like we were talking with the, home movie VHS scenes, there's a lot of, okay, you have a feeling that something really bad is going to happen, but when is it going to happen? And you want to drag it just long enough that you're like, okay, oh no, not yet. Oh, not yet. But you also don't want it to get boring. Pacing is, I think, one of the most important parts in film, but especially in horror film, because it can make or break whether a scare is effective, whether a moment is effective, is if it's the right length. It can be too long, it can be too short, and it can completely ruin a scene for you.
Yeah, and that's the last thing you need.
Because
you're sitting there, like you said, you're sitting there in post and you're watching, and then you get to everything's going right, and you get to one scene, you're like, oh wait, what did we do here?
Yeah. And a lot of it is knowing what to cut out as well. It is really easy to get attached to footage. You can be like, that looks really, really great. I love that. But then you're like, this is not, it's pulling me out of the scene. It doesn't need to be there. It's something, as much as I like it, as cool as it looks, we need to get rid of it. And it is something that, as you go through the process and stuff, it's really hard when you're doing your rough cut. You are so attached to everything. You don't want to cut anything. And by the time you get to the end, you're like, I'm just going to get rid of that. It's not working for whatever reason. And it's the pacing. There is so much that goes into it. And there's no, right or wrong answer to like how long a scene should be, because it really just depends on that moment. It's a lot of trying to watch it as if you're not the one making it. You don't know what's going on. How would it affect you if that was the case? And then kind of tweak it around that.
Yeah. Thanks for the questions, Gap. Appreciate you, man. He said, thanks for answering my question.
Oh, no problem. Any chance I can do to talk about movies, I will.
Oh, Gap had another one. He asked if you made any director's cuts of the films you've done.
I have not specifically. It's something I've always, since I've done our first film, Flesh, and kind of done things now, I'm always like, I wonder, I would do things differently. I could go back and tweak it. And we did a short film before that, and there's a couple things where I'm like, man, I should have done that differently. But I am very grateful. It is one of the good things about being independent, is that you really you can have the director's cut. Whatever version of my film I put out is as close as I want it to be as I can get. A lot of times with bigger studios, they have, especially a newer director, it is hard to get that pull where the studio usually has the final cut on your movie. You get a say, but they decide what happens. And that is a lot of time where the director's cut comes in, as you finally have my vision. I know American History X was a big one. That was a mess. And it came out, and the movie we got versus the director's cut are two very different things. But I'm grateful that, because I'm the one, not to say I'm the one in charge, but like I'm the one who has like the final say of, okay, the movie's done. I get to kind of, each film is sort of my director's cut. There's things I would go back and change, but I'm very grateful to, I don't have to worry about somebody else messing up, my idea of what I want the movie to be.
Yeah, the studio's not going to interfere with your work.
Yeah.
You are the studio.
Exactly. It's the only person that interferes with me, and I do get in my own way sometimes, but
I really think that goes in with any creative. You're going to step on your own toes every now and then, and you know, hit a little stumble, but you always pull yourself out of it because you're like, wait a second. Because I do the same thing when I'm looking at like a promo or anything like that. I'm like, and I will shoot like literally, I'll do a 1.5-minute promo. I will shoot 18 takes of it. And then I'm like, okay, so I like this. And then it turns into Frankenstein's monster where I'm like taking different pieces. And I'm like, well, if I put a jump cut here, or if I do this here, or I fade this, I'm like, it'll work. Like,
it is so much of, you know, the real filmmaking, you know, really happens in the edit, because I mean, you can have some truly just atrocious footage and turn it into something amazing. That's really when you write the movie, is in editing, because you can completely change a film in editing. There's scenes that are completely different than how I wrote them, just because of how I edit them, or where I even put them in the movie versus where they were written.
Dude, that's fantastic, man. I've enjoyed this, man. Really.
I've enjoyed it too. I always love getting to talk about it, because it is something I'm passionate about, and I like to share, you know, things I wish I knew, you know, coming in there, like different things I've learned doing it, you know, independently. It's a lot of trial and error and making a lot of wrong decisions and doing things wrong to figure out what the right way for you is.
Yep. It's personalizing your work, man, putting your stamp on it. J-Man asked, is Flesh is it online anywhere to watch in Canada?
We do have it streaming on Amazon Prime Video. I believe it is streaming in Canada. If for some reason it isn't, go on our website. There's a way to contact us, and it'll let you email me. If you go to wendigopictures.com, it'll let you email me. And if for some reason it isn't streaming on Amazon, let me know, and I will send you a copy of. We have like a Blu-ray DVD combo pack. I'll send you a copy of it. It should be in Canada. I know it's in the US and in Europe. I'm almost certain it's in Canada, but like I said, for some reason, if it isn't, send me an email and I'll get you a copy of it.
Dude, that rocks, man. It gaps.
We have it available, like, you know, for purchase on our website for anybody who wants to own it, but it's not, you know, if it's not available in Canada, it's not your fault. It's not available, you know, there. And I don't mind sending a copy. I already have them. It doesn't take that. All right. So, I can't find an email. Yeah. Send me an email. And I'll get you a copy of it, because I have some extras stashed around.
18 takes. Okay, Chaplin. Yeah, Jay, man. I am. He had. I can't do the mustache though. I can't. My Jewish part will not let me do the mustache. I can't do that.
It takes one guy to ruin it for everybody.
Gap said he can sense your passion in movie making.
Oh, thank you. It definitely is a passion. You know, it's not. You know, I tell people a lot. If I was in it for the money, I wouldn't be doing it, because there is no money in it. It truly it's passion. You know, there's the opposite of making money. I'm still paying off loans for the computer. I'm, you know, looking into right now, that editing the movie, and I'm still paying off the loan for that and the loan for my camera. It's, you know, it really is passion. I could not imagine a life where I wasn't doing this, or even doing anything else the way. I mean, every part of it. There isn't just one part that, you know, I'll be writing it and go, wow, writing it's my favorite. And I'm doing the, you know, prep work, you know, getting all the effects and the sculpting and making sure everything works. I'm like, this is my favorite part. And then filming, I'm like, this is my favorite part. And editing's definitely not my favorite part. There's portions of it I like, but it really is, you know, even the parts of editing that suck, I still love it. It's, you know, it's definitely, there is definitely passion. You know, I couldn't imagine doing anything else. And it's definitely kept me here, you know.
Well, yeah, you look at it, and like you said, you can't see yourself doing anything else, you know. And that's the thing. It's like you get invested in something, and you get so deep into it, and you're like, at this point, like I told my wife, I'm like, hun, wrestling is like the mafia. I said, I was out of the ring for 7 years, and I was like, I'm coming back. I can't do this. Like,
yeah, it is with things like that. I couldn't, you know, I hit moments, especially with this one, you know, there've been moments up and down. And just because editing is such a long, time consuming process, you know, I work all day, you know, 8 hours at work, come home to then spend the rest of the night staring at my computer. And you do hit moments where, oh my God, I just want to to be over with. But even, when I have taken breaks and stepped aside, I'm always like, man, I can't wait to do the next thing. I want to do the next thing. You really never can get away from it when you're so passionate about it.
Yeah.
I catch myself thinking about it without even knowing I'm thinking about it. And all right. Well, thank you for purchasing it. That would be why I think my phone just went off telling me that I got that. I will absolutely autograph, and I'll throw in I think I've got some posters left. I might even have some that are signed. I'll throw a couple other things in there for you, because I really do appreciate that. And I mean, it's going all the way to Canada. We might as well make it worth it. We'll jam pack some stuff in there for you. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
J-Man is a great friend. He actually went to a con, and Kimberly Beck was there from Friday the 13th Part 4. And he got me a personalized autographed picture, framed it, and sent it to me. And it's in my den next to my autographed Kane Hodder.
Wow.
Which I got when I met him.
Man, Kane Hodder is something else. He is the nicest. Wow. What a guy.
We met him at Horror Hound in, I think it was either Cincinnati or Indianapolis. And he was so cool. Like, my son has seen all of the Friday the 13th movies except Part 5, because let's be honest, Part 5 was a softcore porn. Danny Steineman.
Part 5 you just skip over anyway. It's
I actually enjoy it. I've come to appreciate it more.
I can appreciate how different it is, and I love that opening scene with and Jason coming out of the grave. I was like, I watched it, I was like, this is gonna kick ass. This is gonna be so good. And then I was like,
and they shot it with Feldman. They shot that in his backyard with like a rain machine in like a couple hours.
I love it.
It's freaking fantastic. J-Man says, I love Part 5 was the first Friday I saw. I remember seeing it as a kid because I'm trying to think what the first one was I saw. I think it was Part 6. That's my favorite one, is Part 6.
That's mine too. Part 6 and Part 4. I like Part 6 because it feels like it really gets what Jason is. I noticed a little Part 6 in your intro there, little reference to that. I love it because it knows what it is, and it has the right amount of camp to it. It just feels like if you were to like tell somebody what Friday the 13th is, just put on Part 6, because you get best of everything.
And that opening scene, and Joe Blow Horror did something wonderful with that. They dropped the black and white filter over it.
Yes.
Which I did on my computer when I was playing around with it myself. I'm like, and I watched the entire movie in black and white, and I'm like, God, does this add something? It just,
I'm gonna have to do that now.
You just drop the filter over the whole movie, and it's just like, it just adds something to the. It's almost Universal-esque with
we did that with our first film Flesh on the Blu-ray DVD. We have like in the special features, because we have like a bunch of like a making of documentary bloopers, but there's a version we called Flesh Noir. And it's all black and white with that filter on, to where it really does look like an old black and white monster movie, because there were like so many like inspirations with like the Wolfman and that classic monster movie feel. So that is on there. So when that gets to you in Canada, you'll be able to see like the black and white version and all the other stuff we threw in on there.
I'm gonna order a copy of that too. I'll order a copy of it. I want to now. I just want to have a copy on Blu-ray. I like and it was like, there's another independent movie shot here in West Michigan, which is funny because I used to live over there. Deer Camp 86.
Oh God, I feel like I've heard of that.
It was we watched it. We were like, Trina and I watched it and reviewed it, and I was like, and growing up in a family of rifle hunters, I'm like, this is actually cool. I enjoyed the shit out of it. But yeah, that was, and I found out and I watched a bunch of like stuff. It was basically what you described. They did, hey, reached out to people. They did the same thing, use it with a location, reached out, and somebody that knew somebody was like, we've got this here, so
yeah,
it's so cool to hear that. And it's like, man, it's just because you're literally on opposite sides of the state.
Yeah.
Like opposite coasts of Michigan, the east and west coast, Michigan.
Yeah.
Independent horror companies here, which is kind of cool. I borrowed Deer Camp from the library. Yeah, it wasn't, no, like I said, that was good. I saw it in Walmart and I picked a copy up. And I'm looking, I'm like Deer Camp 86. I'm like, the cover, you can tell it's a slasher. So I flip it over. I'm like, oh shit, this is Independent Michigan. I'm like, yep, I'm buying it. I'm like, I'm buying it. I'm like, it's made in Michigan. I'm like, I gotta buy it. Especially, like I said, living in West Michigan for a couple of years. I'm like, that's kind of neat. So
yeah.
But J-Man said Friday the 13th Part 6 and Part 4 are top 2.
Oh, yeah.
Part 4 is fantastic because it has a Crispin Glover dance, which
God, that is, yeah. I just rewatched that. I was shown that me and my buddy, we co-write our first film, Flesh. We were showing it to my fiance, and we're like, all right, there's a certain scene here, and you're gonna know exactly what we're talking about, but it's the best scene in the movie because it is so horrendous. And it got to that, and she immediately was like, okay, that's what you were talking about. His weird, little flailing.
Look at George McFly go. Look at McFly break it down, baby.
It's going Back to the Future for me, because every time I see him in that, I just keep thinking of that damn dance.
Dad, where's the damn corkscrew? Wham! Right rid of the forehead. Here's your corkscrew. I love when they're sitting there watching that old, the project.
Oh my God, yeah.
I still have one of those at my dad's house that works. We've got the old 8mm projector.
I've got one sitting in my garage somewhere that I think works. I honestly don't know if I've ever even tried it.
Yeah, there you go, J-Man. Poor dead fuck. And the Doublemint twins were in that one. Like, come on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the Doublemint twins. I mean, you've got Immolation, and you've got, my thing was like I said, when I was writing, I was like, Jesus, I have a thing for beheadings. I'm like, what was it? What am I, Henry the fucking 8th here? Like, off with their heads.
Every time I watch that movie, it's just how many times does Jason throw somebody out a window or go through a window? And it's like half the cast of that movie is flung out a damn window. And if it's not them, he's throwing them through windows or he's diving through windows and it
busting through doors, breaking windows. You met the twins, and one was kinder than the other.
Right.
Jesus. The evil twin thing is real. I'm telling you, it's real. We were talking about Friday the 13th Part 6. I forgot I had this clip. We were talking about how meta it was, and it right here. This is the perfect encapsulation of that.
Some folks have a strange idea of entertainment.
I knew that's what it was going to be too. I love that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that is it right there. The old caretaker, Martin. Dig him up. I just bears it. What does he think I am? A fart head? His lines, just even his death scene is like the Friday the 13th fell victim to the MPAA at every time.
Oh yeah. Part 7 got butchered so bad. They cut half the damn movie out of that. Yeah.
And I have the Scream Factory box set.
Yeah, that's what I've got too. With that beautiful artwork on it. Oh yeah, I love it. I love that.
I know it's got. The first one I watched out of there is one of my least favorites because I asked my son, I'm like, which one do you want to watch? Because I want to watch one I haven't seen before. I'm like, well, we're not watching Part 5, and that comes with 09 and Jason X and Freddy vs. Jason.
Yeah.
Like, what's Jason X? He goes, he looks cool. I'm like, oh no.
I thought the same thing at that age. There was a Jason X costume I saw at a flea market, and I was like, this is cool as shit. I didn't know Jason could be like this. And then I watched it, and even as a kid, I was like, what in the hell is this?
I saw that movie in the theater. That came out when I was 21, I think. Yeah, because that came out in 01. I was 21. And I went and saw that. And like I said, being a purist, I'm just sitting there in the theater like,
yeah, I genuinely could not believe what I was watching.
I mean, I got into it after a little while because we were stoned and it was funny. But just from a Friday the 13th fan, you're like, this looks like it got, now looking back, like back then it didn't, you wouldn't, categorize it as such, but it looks like a Sci-Fi Channel movie.
It does. It really does. Like they're always low budget, but they didn't feel that kind of low budget. Yeah. There's just something about it where I just, anytime I watch it, I'm like, all right, it ends, Jason takes Manhattan. And you know what? I guess Jason goes to hell. Sure. But yeah, Jason X, I can't do it.
No, I watched Jason X again before David Cronenberg was in that when he got killed in the very beginning.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Cronenberg was in.
I always remember him in Nightbreed. I completely forgot he was in that. Oh my God.
So it was shot on video. One of the first to do it that way. Dude, it
would have been when digital was just kind of
just
popping
starting
off there. Yeah.
Yep. Cronenberg agreed to be in the movie if he could get killed. I remember that.
I love that.
I want to be in the movie. And speaking of Jason Goes to Hell, goddamn you, Gap. You Necronomicon teleportation. Did Draven put you up to this? I saw that son of a bitch in the chat. Did he put you up to this? The Necronomicon is not canonical to Friday the 13th, and he does not teleport. In the video game, that's fine. I don't care. That's the video game, and the servers are gone, so it doesn't even count. They always rib me about that because I'm like, I saw Jason Goes, another one, saw it in the theater. Mom took me to see it, and I was like, the opening scene of that with the female, I was like, ooh, this is going to be good. And then
the opening scene, they like blow them all the hell. I'm like, all right, this could be promising. And then it really, really sucks until like at the very end, you see like Freddy's hand come up, and I'm like, okay, that at least is something redeeming about it. But yeah, I usually just hit Jason Takes Manhattan and stop. And even that one, I like the last half of it. I don't give a shit when they're on the boat. I don't want to see that. I just get to New York. That's what I want.
And this is another telling sign of my age. I was 9 years old when Jason Takes Manhattan came out, and I saw it in the theater because my cousin and I snuck in when we went to see another movie. We were in Lincoln Park at the Lincoln Park 8, which is now a shopping plaza. And my aunt dropped us off, and we were like, okay, we got our tickets, and we're like, Friday the 13th starting. Let's go. So we snuck right in that bitch and sat in the back, and it was like, he was 11 and I was 9. That was the only one of the original Paramount that I got to see in the theater, and that is something I will never forget. And
I have such a cool experience.
I have an affinity for that movie, as bad as it is.
Oh yeah.
God damn, do I love the darkest side of the night. That is on my regular playlist. I listen to that song a couple times a week, and it's like my son loves that. He loves the soundtrack to Lost Boys, like Tim Capello. He'll be like,
I got my cassette tape of the Lost Boys soundtrack. Oh, I love it.
Awesome. He's like, will you put on I Still Believe sometimes? Because he knows.
Yes.
I was like, yep. My mom was in love with that guy. There was no reason for him to be in the movie other than like, here's Jack, shirtless saxophone guy.
It makes no sense, but it's such a good part.
Yep. And he still does concerts, and he still sounds good when he sings.
Yeah.
He was
Days
of the Dead in Atlanta.
There's a whole comic book line they did of Lost Boys where his character, the saxophone dude, is a vampire hunter. It is like an insane read. They're actually really good, but like it gives him like a new meaning for why he's in that movie, I guess.
Fucking cool. I actually remixed the last scene of that movie. Everybody's making those shorts with the Fetty Wap song again.
Yes.
So I did it when Grandpa comes through the wall.
I knew it. It drives through with the truck.
Yep, and here comes the Fetty Wap playing.
Yep. Like, oh my God, that's
how
great.
can I make this into something? I'm like, Lost Boys. Perfect. I'm like, fucking Lost Boys.
That's so funny.
Wait, Nightmare 4 song we're at. Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, because she gets like the different dream powers and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that the cockroach death, the roach motel will always.
Yeah, I love that. Oh,
it was
just
awesome.
With an arm snap and just that crazy force perspective shot of like Freddy looking in through that is so cool.
What song? It was that song was "Lay Your Hands on Me," was playing in the background. Which is I'm like, man, it was like the music work because she's out there, she's benched, and all of a sudden Freddy's pushing down on the bar. I'm like, oh shit, like Yeah, just so freaking creative with
and the
Nightmare on Elm
big
Street.
nasty bug arms coming out. It's so cool.
Yeah, because she turns into a roach inside the box. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, fucking fantastic, man. Wes Craven. And we were talking about him not long ago because Shocker is one of my another talk
I
about
love
Nightmare on Elm Street
Shocker.
knockoffs. Shocker.
Oh yeah.
And it's by Wes
And
Craven.
another solid soundtrack. I think the Megadeth did music for that. Yeah.
Yep. Mitch Pileggi playing Horace Pinker was.
Yes.
And Vincent Gustafaro from Friday the 13th, Part 6.
Yeah.
Deputy Rick, who Tommy Jarvis saved his life by locking him in the jail cell, who would return to play Deputy Rick in Never Hike Alone 2.
Yeah, I forgot he came back for that.
Yep.
Yeah, because they got a handful of the cast back for that.
Yeah. I popped at the end of Never Hike Alone when Tom Matthews showed up as the ambulance driver. I was like, oh shit, it's Tommy. Yeah, that popped me right there. I like that. Wait, I like to see. Oh, Welcome to Primetime, bitch. That's
absolutely iconic. It's just
I'm in the process of remaking the end credits for the show now and updating them for this year. I know we're 5 months in and I'm just now getting to it. My schedule is busy, folks. And I will take a minute and 40 credit. It takes me, a minute 44 seconds for my end credits. That took me 2 hours, 3 hours to edit that together to get the titles and everything. I'm like, yeah, I'm ridiculous when it comes to that stuff. So, but thank you, Nick. We're gonna wrap, but thank you for being on, brother.
No problem. Thank you for having me on. I had a blast,
man.
Getting to share some new sort of info about the movie I haven't got to talk about yet.
Absolutely, brother. We're posting up. Here's the YouTube link right here for Wendigoh Pictures, and we'll get the website up there as well. If you guys go on over and check that out, get you a copy.
The website's got all sorts of behind the scenes stuff from all our projects. It has pictures of our premieres, different sculptures we've done. It's kind of got everything. You can learn a little bit more about our cast and crew. There's a ton of cool stuff on there. We've got our merch and stuff like that on there. So definitely check that out. Learn a little bit more about bad things happen here and see some more of our behind the scenes footage and stuff. We'll be posting updates on there, as well as our Facebook page, Instagram, anywhere you can search Wendigoh Pictures. We probably got an account on there.
Nick, thank you again for coming on, brother.
Thank you for having me. I had a blast.
You're welcome to come back. And next time we have you on, we'll have you come on. You can review a movie with us.
I would love that. Absolutely.
Well, and you get to select. So
all right.
Have that in mind. J-Man said he subbed to the channel. Said I'll post a review when I see the movie. Be cool. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, bro. But yeah, Drew, he threw us for a loop, man. He came on and he picked the Cabinet of Dr. The Curious Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
That is the first movie that ever scared me as a kid. I was obsessed with all those movies, and I went to a store called Media Play that's since long gone. They had a set, and it had Nosferatu, The Hunchback, Phantom of the Opera, and the only one I didn't know, which was Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. And my dad's like, oh yeah, I love the Universal Monsters, whatever, put it on. I'm sitting in there watching, and that movie scared the shit out of me. I had never seen anything like that, and to this day, that has always stuck with me. And I love that whole German Expressionism era where everything felt like a stage play. It was so theatrical. I love it. Yeah, when I saw he picked that, I would not have expected that from him, but I thought that was so cool.
It was, because we'd never reviewed a silent film, and I haven't seen a silent movie since I watched Charlie Chaplin movies as a kid with my mom. So yeah, that was a cool experience. So no, you'll get to pick one out when you come back on and review one with us. But thank you again,
awesome,
Nick.
I'd love that.
It was fantastic having you, bro. Thank you to everybody in the chat, our channel members, Patreon backers. Remember, I know I said it's been a busy month. We're getting back and redoing things. Channel members, you're going to get a video tomorrow. I will have a video just for you, channel members. Patreon, we are doing the best last man standing matches in WWE, which doesn't incorporate WCW as well, because I need to do a commentary for Tully Blanchard versus Magnum TA in their I Quit match, where Magnum TA tried to stab Tully Blanchard with a piece of broken chair. Fantastic match, and they told a hell of a story. So, gang, thank you guys. There's the Patreon. You guys know everything. All the links are in the description. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us here on Tuesday Night TerrorVision. Next week, Far From Blake will be back. Blake is joining me again, and we'll see what movie he picks to review. So you guys know how we sign out every show. Stabbing is not part of the rules. Well, look, you know, sometimes you gotta sometimes your earring gets ripped out, sometimes you gotta stab somebody with a piece of broken chair. But I'm Pete from Wrestling with Horror. If I don't see you, have a great day at Pleasant tomorrow. I'll catch you on the next one. And remember, it's always better to burn out than fade away.